Meet Brenda Ramokopelwa, a visionary co-founder of Afro Longevity, CEO of the transdisciplinary Agora for Future Discussions, and a passionate futurist with a commitment to ethical development. As an award-winning risk and governance expert, Brenda's experience spans across the financial sector, where she's made a significant impact as both a thought leader and a changemaker. Brenda is dedicated to connecting the world to Africa and Africa to the world. Through TAFDs, she's spearheading initiatives to bring young futurists into the global conversation, bridging the gap between rural Africa and international innovation. She also leads Daleo Consulting, a risk and management firm, and sits on several prestigious advisory boards, including the Lifeboat Foundation Ethics and Futurist Board in the USA and the 4IR Policy Advisory Board for CETA in South Africa. A regular contributor to journals and media outlets, Brenda's voice resonates globally. She's been featured by major futurist platforms like the Transhumanist Enlightenment Salon in the USA and the World Talent Economic Forum in India. And she's recently shared insights with the globally recognized futurist Ross Dowson on Thrive on Overload. As a peripatetic futurist, Brenda brings a unique approach, blending external and internal perspectives to develop young minds and validate their ideas. Her vision is clear: to empower a new generation of thinkers who will shape Africa's future on the global stage. Join us in today's HealthGevity podcast with Dr. Dana Marduk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of HealthGevity podcast. Today, we have a very amazing guest that is going to tell us some new topics about longevity, especially somewhere that not a lot of people have heard about it. Today, our guest is Brenda Ramokopelwa, which is the CEO at Tafts and also the co-founder of Afro Longevity. So without further ado, let's welcome Brenda. Welcome, Brenda, to HealthGevity podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marduk. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I know you are very busy with a lot of conferences, activities around the world, but today we want to have you here because in HealthGevity Nation, we have a community that really are eager to know more about all people who are active in the field of longevity, especially you that you're working in the whole Africa. And I think it's very different from other parts of the world. And very interesting for myself personally, because I love Africa, the whole culture, nature, people. So I really am curious to know more. So let's start with this. Could you start just by telling us, about your journey, just like any of us that we have a journey, that what, led you to become the CEO of TFFDs and later, I think, the co-founder of Afro Longevity.
Okay, so I think maybe just a bit of background.
Yes,
I started off my career in the financial industry. So I've got a background in risk management and governance. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. So when I left the corporate environment, I decided to start a small organization called Daleo Consulting, which was focused on technology. But because I was bringing a lot of that risk management background in, I started engaging with people outside of my normal environment. So that's when I met Sinagachi, who is my co-founder of Afro Longevity and also the founder of Tafts. And then we decided to go into this business together, but with the whole aim of ensuring that we can help advance or support the advancement of science and technology within the African continent and continue to empower young futurists in the continent.
Fantastic. So let me ask you about the personal interest or the enthusiasm that you're talking about especially longevity. What made you to work on this field, which is actually a lot of people don't know about it, even academics and MDs. Still, we see some doctors and MDs that for many, many years they have been studying different fields and parts of the medical science, but still even they haven't heard of the word longevity. I have personally actually encountered with many of them. So I want to know that how everything started, why you are passionate about working in this field. And of course, I know you're also a futurist, you're also a transhumanist, and passionate about all of these. That's why actually I want to have you here, because all of these fields are exactly the same thing that I'm so much passionate about.
Yeah. So longevity specifically, I think it's that interest that I've got in transhumanism, is that forward thinking that I've got. And I think all of that together, and the mere fact that just like every human, I am interested in living longer and living healthier. So, you know, we talk about advancement of science. So in our research around what advancement are out there, I started hearing about longevity, and I became very interested. The main driver of that interest was the fact that when I compared where Africa is, this is where the other countries or continents are in terms of life expectancy. I realized that we are very low. We still have a long way to go. And then that got me very interested in what are the other people doing? This is when then I started getting interest into what is being done in the longevity field, which for me is the bedrock of, you know, healthy lifespan and health and advancement in terms of transhumanism, because that's where we start to talk about super well-being, super longevity, So you cannot have all of that if you are sitting here sick, if you have a dying population. So I think it's more the interest in, you know, how do we close this life expectancy gap that we have in Africa? How do we change our health policy so that it's not only looking at treating diseases, but it is more proactive and it is more preventative? And then I got to meet wonderful people that are doing amazing work in longevity. And yeah, and that's how we got into this journey.
Fantastic. You know, when you start thinking about future, actually, most of us, when we are a kid, we mostly think about future more than past and present. And we are so open to future. There is almost no limitation in our mind that what we can do or what can happen actually in the future. But later you see that adults actually started to limit themselves, their thoughts. But what future studies as a science and art and future thinking can help us is that it can open our eyes and mind again toward the future, so we can think about the possible future that we can create. And people who think about future later, some of them like you and me, for example, and many other people, then think about long future, like 10 years, 20, 50, 100, even 1000, right? And then where longevity comes to the field, and then transhumanism, because all of these things are fields that are talking about the future. So I want to ask you a question. Today is August 16. Is it a special day, or I mean, it reminds you of something? Because I actually saw in your LinkedIn post that you founded Afro Longevity in August 16, 2022, right? So
we launched it then. So yeah, it is quite special to us. And that was our first, by the way, conference where we started talking about these concepts in the continent. And we did this in South Africa, which is my home country.
Fantastic. That's great. So now, as a futurist and someone that you have passion for longevity, tell me a little bit about the future of longevity, especially in Africa, and what you are doing in Afro Longevity. How do you see it in terms of, as you said, it's not only about life expectancy, because, you know, in longevity, we don't only talk about prolonging our lives, especially, you know, in HealthGevity Nation, we have combined two words of health and longevity, because we believe in health span, increasing the health span, because lifespan has no meaning if we cannot add meaningful years and healthy years to it. And unfortunately, I've seen that the life expectancy has been like from 60, 61 and something like that, which is one of the lowest among all the countries. Can you tell me maybe some reasons why is that? And what is the projection that you see in the next maybe 5, 10, 20 years for longevity in Africa?
Great. So life expectancy is quite low. I think it's around the 60s, but obviously, there's the average. When you go from country to country, we've got 55 different countries with different cultures and different health system and economies in the continent. We've got 1.4 billion people living in the continent. So we are quite diverse. And obviously, that also will impact how we will evolve in terms of longevity as well going forward. There are countries that are doing very well that are even higher than the global average in Africa. So there are things that we can learn from them. There are things that they can learn from other countries, because also another issue that we've got is around data collection or, the credibility of the data that exists, which is something that we intend to really look at and ensure that the cleanup happens. But, looking forward to how I see things evolving, if you look at the past 5 years, the life expectancy in Africa has been increasing, it has been climbing. And this is due to the fact that we are now starting to see an improvement in the health system. We are now starting to see the fight against infectious diseases. I mean, if you take South Africa, for example, there was a point where, we were increasing, and then we immediately went down because of the infectious diseases that are there. If you look in the Western Africa or Eastern Africa region as well, they've been highly impacted by all of these infectious diseases. And it hit them hard because the advancement in the health system and the health policies didn't allow or didn't enable addressing or dealing with these issues. But now with the improvement that we see with these new economies that are emerging, and with these young people that are bringing new innovations and inventing new technologies, and also the changes in policies that are influenced by the type of population that we have, our global collaborations, I see health span increasing and lifespan increasing in Africa in the next 5 years. I think we need a lot of things that needs to happen to get us to where we would like to be ideally, but it is progressing, and I think it will get to a point if we do start to entertain or incorporate ideas like longevity, transhumanism, as a concept, and some of those aspects that can help us to get there. I think we are heading in the right direction, especially because we've got a young population that is not scared to take risks, that wants to experiment with most of these new things that are coming down.
Exactly. And, I think Africa is going to improve all these fields much, much faster than other countries, because let's say 10, 20 years ago, we did not have the technologies that now we have today, right? Especially see that now we have ChatGPT, OpenAI, I mean, a lot of AI tools and other technologies that, based on Ray Kurzweil's book, the new version of it, Singularity is Nearer, actually. It says that now we are very close to something we call it technological convergence, which means that many technologies at the same time converge, and we will have something much greater than even we can fathom. So I think having all these technologies in the hand of young African people, it can really totally, the change can be exponential, and it can be much, much faster. And that's a good news, really. I'm so happy for that. And I'm sure that we'll see it.
No, you are right. It is an amazing thing, especially because, I mean, when you think about the first, second, and third industrial revolution, we didn't have all of that. Africa was left behind, so to say. But now with this current fourth industrial revolution, we are right there with where the world, we might not have the infrastructure or whatever, but the interest is there. There's open source, as you say. We've got the people that can really implement and drive all of this innovation. So I am also excited about the potential and the potential for Africa to really start to move faster and get us to where we need to be.
Fantastic. So let me ask you a question. What do you see the role of women, because especially the longevity? Because recently, actually, a lot of women around the world are much more active in this field. And this is a very good news. And I can tell you about HealthGevity Nation that now we have 37 ambassadors all around the world, and 65% of our ambassadors are women. And this is a very good news that shows their passion. And of course, I have to confess as a man that, women care more about themselves, about the world, about longevity, about health, and all of these things. And this is so great because now they can play their real role, and I think it can improve the whole field. What do you think?
I think it is quite amazing. I think the role of women is going to be absolutely amazing. Dr. Natasha Vita-Moore has started, a community of women in longevity as well. We've got this amazing women that are running this big organization in longevity that are professional experts in the field of longevity that are coming together to share ideas and also collaborate and help each other to get there. There are amazing women like your Dr. Andrea May. I can mention a lot of them. That are doing great things. I really think the role of women is very important because women are nurturers by nature. Women are the mothers of the nation. If a seed lands with them, you can bet that it will go further. It means the kids will be educated from young age about taking care of themselves, ensuring that their lives, their lifestyles are in such a way that they can live healthier for longer. And, they will make sure that even organizations or the way they approach business, the way they approach any discipline, where they are, they will ensure that that message is integrated in that. So I'm quite excited that for the first time, you see a community that is advancing something without leaving, the previously disadvantaged or people that were not given the opportunity to really come forward. Because I think if there is one community or one field that really needs diversity, longevity is one of those.
Absolutely. And, women are actually the first people who educate children starting from the families. And this is so much important because health and longevity is not something that, let's say, you can learn it academically in university or later, but from the early ages, we have to teach our children to have a healthy lifestyle. And this is actually what women can do. And that's why exactly it's so important. So let me ask you a question about transhumanism, which I'm also very much interested in. I remember when I was a teenager, I read Isaac Asimov books, about his sci-fi books about 2050, 2100, that how the world is going to change, how we as a human are going to transcend to another level. So, that talking about transhumanism, actually somehow it should be in the context of advanced technologies. So how do you see this philosophy fitting within the African context, which may not have the same access to technology as other people in other countries have?
That is an amazing question because, one thing that we've always, spoken about in Afro Longevity, and really we would like to see that happen, is, we've got the pillars of transhumanism. We've got super well-being, we've got super longevity, we've got super intelligence. Yeah. But I think that it misses the cultural aspect of it, because for us in Afro Longevity and for us in Africa, culture becomes very important, right? for you to even think super intelligence and super longevity, your well-being needs to be okay. And part of your well-being is your lifestyle. It is the food that you eat. It is all of that. Once you are, but your biological well-being is okay, now you can say, how do I maintain this? How do I ensure I don't age as much as I would like? How do I ensure that there's healthy aging? And then the intelligence would, come will follow that. So the cultural bit that I'm talking about, which is something that is so important in Africa, and it is different depending on where you are in Africa, talks about the type of food that we eat. It talks about the type of lifestyle that we lead. In Africa, we are very communal, right? And, there's a lot of research that talks about, your mental well-being as well, how it contributes to your longevity as well. So, research has shown how people that are lonely, tend to go into depression and blah, blah,
Absolutely.
blah. In Africa, being communal, that helps with such things. We live in villages, we live in very close-knit family. We've got these distant cousins that we still call our brothers and sisters. That is very important. The food that we eat, most of it is natural food. It's organic food. And depending on where you are, the dishes, the cultural food is different. So, and most of that food has got massive nutritional benefit. So I think we need to somehow, or how I see this fitting into Africa, is where we explicitly talk about how culture fits into the super well-being and super longevity, which will then lead to ensure that when super intelligence then, comes around, our well-being is taken care of.
Yeah, fantastic. You talked about the community and how actually African people are different. And that's amazing, because now this is the thing that we need. And actually in my book here, as you see, HealthGevity Journey, I've written this book based on 12 pillars that are essential for having a healthy, long life. And one of the most important pillars I talk about is engagement with community, which is so important. And as you said, there are hundreds of researchers showing that those people who feel lonely, they die earlier, and even they will let's say get different kinds of aging related diseases much more and faster than others. So this one is a really important, that we have to focus more on that. So I noticed that actually you are kind of, let's say, risk management and a governance consultant. So my next question is about this, but before that I have to tell you a story a little bit. It was last year that with Dr. Jose Luis Cordero, the co-founder of HealthGevity Nation, we had a chance to be in Evolution Foundation Summit in Saudi Arabia, which Saudi Arabia actually had like $20 billion investment in longevity, which is one of the biggest ones. And the X Prize, actually, they had $101 million in the field of longevity to be able to do some specific task in this field to rejuvenate, let's say. I'm not going into the details, but I want to ask you, what is the role of the government in advancing the longevity initiatives, and especially about Africa? I want you to explain more that how governments are collaborative with the organizations, universities in terms of longevity, how things going on there.
So Evolution is doing amazing work. I must commend them for what they're doing there for Saudi Arabia, for UAE. I also am quite excited about the X Prize, and we've partnered with them to ensure that Africa can start to participate into the competitions that they do. So that's quite amazing. So in collaboration with government and other institutions. So as Afro Longevity, since we started our series of annual events and also, the small events that we have in the continent, the aim is to have partnership between public organizations like governments, private organizations, so that they can help us with funding, because that is one of the most challenging thing. Funding is a problem, especially for Africa, given the fact that longevity is a new concept in the continent. People are doing things in pockets, and gerontology is what they look at when they start to talk about aging, which, as you and me know, is not necessarily holistic. And then they look at medicine, which is looking at, you know, the after effects or the symptoms of diseases, not necessarily the causes. So if you look at educational institutions, especially of higher learning, we don't yet have longevity specific or focused longevity programs in educational institutions.
Right.
So as Afro Longevity, that's one of the missions that we've got. When you look at our health policies, they are more inclined towards, you know, treating diseases, not preventing diseases. And when they talk about aging, it's the social aspect of it. So with each of our conference and engagements, we always ensure that we include the practitioners, we include the government entities. So because those are policy makers, so they understand what this is, and they can see how, you know, they can help to change the policies around this. At our last conference in Johannesburg, we invited the MEC of the province for health. And she was very interested in what we're doing. And since then, we've been engaging with them to say, now that South Africa has signed NHI, the National Health Insurance, into law, how do we ensure that we don't just open up or provide financial support for the masses? We make sure that it is quality healthcare. We make sure that we change the policy to ensure that it enables or it caters for preventative care, regenerative medicine, you know, and all of that. And also with the education department as well, how do we bring in longevity education into institution of higher learning as formal learning programs, but also at educational level, at lower level education? How do we make this thing practical so that a child that is still at elementary school already knows the practical things? They might not know that it's called longevity, but their lifestyle and the food that they consume is in such a way that it promotes this. Another aspect is the fact that we work, Africa is mostly rural, right? In the cities, you know, there's a lot of things happening. But when you go to the villages, there's a lot of people that are not really educated. So when you start using big terms, they might not understand it. We need to be able to translate this in the language that those people understand. When I speak to my grandmother and I start talking about longevity, does she get it? Can I put it in a way that makes her be able to say, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow? For example, I can have a vegetable garden in my yard. It's not expensive, because right now longevity and solutions that I get towards longevity, they look like they are for the elite. So in an African context, we need to think about the majority of our people are poor. So how do we, in our environment, customize this so that it caters for them? They don't see it as this is only for the rich. So the food, we can start there, low-hanging fruits.
Yes.
The education, we can do that. We can
sleep, exercise,
all of that. And we can do this with the help of the government. So those are the type of conversations that we're having. Then we are only left with the 40% that will then require technology. So basically what we're saying is, you know, longevity and, you know, super longevity and super well-being is not only about technologies. There are already things that we can leverage off right now that the masses can benefit from. The intervention is where technology comes in, and it looks after that 40% that is left. And we need government to be able to fund the research, to be able to fund the infrastructure that will enable us to do this. We need investment. We need people that can look at this and say, we've got 1.4 billion people that are sitting across 55 countries. They need this. How do we ensure that it happens? Because at the end of the day, from a humanity point of view, that work that is being done in Africa, the work that is being done in Europe or in the US, if we bring it all together, it will be beneficial for all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so true. And, I personally believe that in terms of intervention, 80% is lifestyle, and just we can put 20% for technology and other intervention. You know why I say that? Because no matter how much technology you use, if you don't have a high quality sleep, if you don't do exercise regularly, if you do not have a, let's say, healthy diet, if you do not have a positive mindset and also the communication, and these pillars, if you do not have this, no matter how much you spend on yourself, they're not going to get the result. That's why. Yeah. So my next question is about the effect of longevity on society, especially in terms of the economy. Let me give you a statistics that recently was out that it says adding one healthy years to a life of person can save up to $38 trillion per year in United States. And this is a huge number. So my question is this, that what do you think the pursuit of longevity, how it can influence, the economic growth and development in African countries?
Massively, massively. I think that one is a no-brainer. If you think about how much money all of these governments are spending on taking care of the elderly, right? Now, if you think about that amount of money, even if you took just a quarter of that budget and put it into research and put it into finding preventative mechanism, then you won't have to spend that much on caring for the elderly. That's one. The second thing is, if you have a healthy aging population, it means people will stay productive for longer, and therefore they don't have to be a burden for the government, where they now have to start paying for their retirement and doing all of that. Another thing is, when we start promoting healthy lifestyle, it will ensure that our health facilities are much more open. We don't get a whole lot of a congestion where now the quality of healthcare start dwindling down, because you don't have a lot of people going to the hospitals, looking for medication for these chronic diseases, because we would have dealt with them at the source. Honestly, from an economic point of view, I can go on and on. From an agricultural point of view, I think it will be cheaper to produce organically and natural food instead of this, genetically modified food that we see, penetrating the market. And it's just so many things that, from a longevity point of view, it will be able to positively impact on so many sectors of the economy. But for us to be able to do that, obviously, we need to change we need to rethink healthcare, and we need to start incorporating this, put that seed where it belongs, in the education system, in creating awareness in communities, so that long term we can start to reap the benefits of this.
Absolutely. And, we need actually a paradigm shift, especially in education, that everything is about, treatment, which is so late. We have to focus and shift from treatment to prevention, because, as you said, it will take probably 1/10 of the whole expenses that we spend later in life, and which has no result. This is the problem, because already when the damage is done on your body, you're not going to be healthy again. For example, aging-related diseases like Alzheimer, you cannot somehow reverse it, at least now. And this is the problem, because this disease is started actually, let's say, starting most of the time in the age of 40, and we don't recognize it until the later life in 60 or 70, and by then it's too late. So if we think and focus on prevention, and we teach that and bring it to the education system, absolutely, it will have great impact on the whole society. So next question is for me, actually, I'm curious really, because I have some amazing friends from different countries. And actually, we have three ambassadors from African countries, from Ghana, from Morocco, and some other countries. We have some ambassadors, but I want to hear from you that how, let's say, African people as a culture, how do they see aging? Probably, I think it might be some differences between, the way that they see it as maybe Europeans or even Asian people. So culturally, with the background, I want to see that how do they see the aging, and do they see it like something natural that can happen, we cannot do anything about it, we have to just accept it, or no, this is something that probably we can do something about it? I would like to know more about this.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your question in two parts. So
All right.
the first one is how do they see it? Do they see that it's a natural thing? Most of the people think it's a natural thing. You are born, you grow up and then you age and then you die, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, depending on where you are in Africa, it will be different. And I'm glad that you've got ambassadors in different countries, because they will give you a perspective of how it looks African. But in general, in Africa, aging is seen as a blessing. It's not seen as a burden. So we talk about the respect for gray hairs. Yes. When people are older, we tend to respect them even more. We want to take care of them even more. We want to be close to them because, they share experiences. We learn a lot from them. Those are the people that set the rules in the community. When there's a problem, those are the people that we come to. So for us, having people that are older, it's something that we really, really cherish. And which is why the concern for the life expectancy in Africa being so low, because we are losing the wisdom, we are losing all of that. Also, why we at Afro Longevity, we really want to make sure that we can safeguard that by introducing these interventions from longevity and making sure that our elderly stay longer, and not just longer, but they are healthier, and we are able to can learn and enjoy life with them. So for us, having a person that lives longer, it really is something that we really, really cherish. And I think, if we've got enough resources, it is something that once it lands in Africa, it will be supported. It will be, people really, really want to make sure that we come up with those solutions. We come with those solutions quicker, because there's so many benefits from a cultural point of view that we can get for having, older people in the society.
Wow, that's fantastic. And, actually, based on a lot of studies, and I'm sure that and many of our listeners know about the blue zones, 5 zones in the world that they have the highest life expectancy. For example, in Okinawa, most of the elderly, they still live with their society community. I mean, their children, their great children. And this is how keep the elderly much more motivated to stay healthy and to live longer. And this is so much important, which unfortunately, in some countries, we might not see that as well. But this is a really important factor in how to see it. But let me ask you a question that, of course, I ask all guests here. And because I have a project for my third book, which, I think, even though it's controversial, and yesterday, actually, we had a podcast with Dr. Aubrey de Grey with Jose Luis Cordero, and we talked about this topic, which is, do you think aging is a disease, or at least should be considered as a disease? It's controversial. Some people, like David Sinclair, they think that it's a disease, both pathologically and it should be considered as a disease because it will have a lot of consequences, positive ones, on the societies and governments. But some other people say no, it is not. And if we call aged people or elderly that you are sick or you are, have this disease, probably it has negative effects. But I want to ask you this question, your ideas, and let me see what you think.
I always struggle with that. And I struggle with that for two reasons. As you said, some are saying that if we start to treat elderly people as if they are sick, then it has a negative connotation, right?
Right.
It is the symptoms of aging that are diseases, right? It is what aging causes. Those are the diseases, according to you. The second thing that makes me a bit uncomfortable with this is, if it's not classified as a disease, it looks like, from what I've seen with the work that has been done by all of these amazing people, it looks like that work is not going anywhere because it's not recognized as the disease. Organizations like WHO or FDA or whatever, all of those organizations don't take it serious, don't take this work seriously. And therefore, they will not fund the ongoing research. They will not support the efforts that are, done by the scientists to be able to deal with, the results of aging, which is this chronic diseases and all of that. So I think for me at this point in time, definitions, when we are still trying to introduce a topic like this, as you said, this is controversial, it becomes sensitive because it can go either way. I try to stay away from definitions and just talk about longevity holistically and talk about what can happen if we do not do something about all of these diseases that are causing aging. And if we do something about this, what are the benefits that will come out of it? So people can grasp it. And by people, I'm talking about not scientists, because they understand, they've got the definition. When they're talking to each other, they understand that. But a person on the street doesn't understand that. A person who's making that policy is a politician. They understand policies, they understand governance, they don't understand science. An investor that wants to put in money, they need to know that it is worth putting money into it. So for me, translating this in a language that can be understood by the people that we're taking the message to, it is more important than trying to box this and call it something that, might open up a lot of unnecessary challenges.
Right. But let me tell you something, because we have some facts. For example, we have a disease of osteoporosis, which now is considered as a disease by WHO, but it was not the same always. Before 1979, it was considered as a natural result of aging. And all MDs said, okay, we cannot do anything about it because we get old and then we have this problem in everybody. So it's totally universal, it's natural, so it's not a disease. But after that, with a lot of researchers and studies, okay, now it is considered as a disease. And again, for example, for obesity, which now is a disease, we know that this is something that most of people, even normal people, by just eating more than they need, they can be overweight and then obese, right? So the question is this, that the problem actually is this, that when we talk about aging, people say this is natural, this is going to happen for everyone. So based on this belief, their decision is different than if they see it as a disease. And I have experienced it with many people. And when I discuss with them, finally, just like a eureka moment, they say, oh my God, wow, I haven't thought about it before like that. If I see and I believe that aging is something, at least, okay, even do not call it a disease, call it a problem, but a problem that has a solution, that you can at least prevent or do something about it. It can change the life of people, because philosophy of people is what they live based on. If they think aging is something they cannot do anything about it, they do not take action. But if they think that, no, this is a condition, this is a situation, this is a problem, this is something that we can do something about it, then they start taking action, because now they see. And of course, maybe in 20 years, 30 years ago, it was not very, easy to say that to everyone, because we didn't have technologies intervention. Nowadays we have. But now we have technologies. We have seen it even in human being. Brian Johnson is a person that, even though I know that has spent millions of dollars on himself, but he has proved that we can, let's say, slow down the speed of aging and even reverse it. So this is so much important. And I know it can have some negative ramifications, but total, I see it positive. And this is some part of it based on my, social communication with normal people, without academic background, and also with academic background. So what do you think about this?
So I hear what you're saying. So I think for me, as I said, is specifically classifying as a disease at this point, right here, where we are still trying to create awareness. I'm a bit reluctant to do that, because obviously, the awareness is not there and all of that. Then it is a problem, yes, definitely. And that is where I'm talking about. Talk about it in a way that people can understand. They understand that it is a condition, it is a problem, and it is a problem that can be solved. And we are able to solve it. And these are the things that can help us get to that solution. We can do it like that. When I'm talking to the likes of you and the people in the longevity community that, that already bought into this and understand it properly, it is easy to have this conversation and be definitive about it. But when I'm talking to the community, I think, the only reason why I try to not box it is because I'm trying to explain it in such a way that they understand that it is within their reach. It is something that they can do, something that they can change, and it's something that they have. Because as soon as you say something is a disease, people start asking you for the magic pill. What medicine can I take for it? And right now, we are not at a point where I can give you a magic pill that will reverse your aging or cure. There's a lot of things that needs to happen to even, reverse one aspect of your biological age. So it's a bit of a. So I'm not against it. I'm just cautious around the definition.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's go to another topic, which is so much important for me and for us in HealthGevity Nation, which is education. So we already have done some activities, but now we are going to take longevity literacy to schools and teach children about it. And it's even if we simplify it so much that they hear about the word and the whole field, and they know that what is it about and what they can do about it from the early age, I think it will affect their life later. And that's why we have now plans to take it to different schools and have, let's say, even gamify it, because children love to play the game. And we are working on designing some games so that by playing games, they understand that how much health is important. Actually, it is the most important asset that they have in their life. And when they know this, their, let's say, action will be different. And this is the best investment that we can do for the future. So the question is this: how can education system in Africa can be adapted to include more focus on longevity?
Sure. There's a lot that can be done. The example that you gave is an amazing one that we speak about. Gamification, turn gaming into productive leisure. Productive in the sense that, you can learn something, you can really go and apply that in a practical way. Earlier on, I spoke about how we are, as part of our outreach, we are trying to see how we can start to introduce longevity practically at from your elementary school all the way up to formalizing it in institutions of higher learning. Another aspect of it is how we are educating the communities. And part of what we do with our conference, or stemming out of our conference as well, is we have these competitions that we are putting together for each and every one of our conference. And we want to see how people think about longevity. What do they think? Is there anything that we can learn from their thinking? Is there anything that can come out of that? So talking about adapting is really from the biggest challenge that we have in Africa is funding. We struggle a lot with funding, be it when we want to do the events, when we want to run outreach programs, and all of that. So, how the system can change is change policy in terms of, allocating funds for important projects like longevity, encourage the investment community to start looking at funding these projects, funding these programs around longevity, so that we don't have to spend as much later in life. Programs that can be designed, or creation of curriculum that are focused on longevity and ensuring that we can educate our people or our kids about longevity, whether they want to be practitioners, whether they just want to know about it, whether they just want to practice it in different aspects of their life. I think it will be greatly appreciated, and it will be helpful to get us from where we are to where we want to be.
Fantastic. Brenda, we have still a lot of questions, but I know that your time is limited. So the last question, and anything else that you might be interesting for you to add. So I want to know about the upcoming projects, initiatives, maybe conferences, or something that you are excited about to share with our listeners, please.
Okay. So the most exciting right now is our upcoming conference that's going to happen in Nigeria. This will be the first longevity conference in Nigeria. As I mentioned before, we've had 2 of the conferences in South Africa. So now we are going to Nigeria. We would like to go to as many African countries as possible. So we want to invite everyone that's listening in. It is an international conference. We've had one last year here. We attracted delegates and speakers from over 33 different countries globally. So it is well attended by amazing speakers, scientists. People like Aubrey de Grey have been, great features in our conference. Jose as well has been here. Dr. Natasha Vita, and a lot of other renowned scientists out there. But we also want to ensure that we bring in scientists that are in the continent, so that when you come to our conference, you're not only hearing about the same thing that you are hearing, when you go into the conference in Europe. Yes, the science is still there, but we want to bring the academia into it. We also want to bring the African flavor, understand how the cultural aspect of Africa and how the biodiversity of Africa can contribute to longevity and the solutions that are being put together. Over and above that is all of these conferences that we are invited to globally, where we represent Afro Longevity, and also want to learn from the likes of you about the amazing work that you are doing. So we are open for those collaborations. We are open for those invitations. so that we can share knowledge and share experiences and see what projects we can pursue together.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Since actually we are just expanding through Africa, because now we have just 3 ambassadors, but we really want to have 1 ambassador in each African country. So yeah, of course, I'm sure that you can help with that. And finally, beside that, we have a new project, a part of our HealthGevity Nation, which we have created a HealthGevity passport. Because when we say a nation, we are a nation regardless of your color, your religion, your thoughts, your belief. As a human person, we want to actually all work on longevity and preventing a lot of aging related diseases. So we are going to send you some more information, and it would be our pleasure actually to have HealthGevity Nation passport, which in the near future we are going to have amazing features for that. So we offer it to all those people who are in our podcast. And thank you so much again for your time, for your precious insights on longevity. And for the last word, if you want to say anything. If not, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak to your audience. We look forward to having that passport as part of Afro Longevity. And as you expand into Africa, the invite is for you guys to collaborate with us so that we can increase that footprint. We would like to visit many African countries as much as possible. And it will be a great pleasure to take you with us when we go there, either in person to come to our event or even virtually to present at some of the webinars that we have.
Yes,
But
absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you so much. So the final thing, maybe for our nation, let's say, if they want to learn more about Afro Longevity, please let us know where we can find more information, even though I will put some links, but you tell us whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, or any resource that people can actually go and see more about your activities.
So me personally, I am on LinkedIn as Brenda Ramokopelwa. But we've got TEVS.org on LinkedIn. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook as well. And our website is www.tevs.org. You will see Afro Longevity as an embedded page there. And then you can go have a look at the amazing activities that we are doing with a lot of people from all over the world.
Thank you so much again, and wish you a great day, long, prosper, and long.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.